If you've ever ridden a bus in Manhattan during rush hours, you will know how painful it is to deal with the constant stopping every 1 to 2 blocks, or the long queues of people taking ages to board the bus, maybe even the traffic. The MTA haven't announced their plans for a Manhattan Bus redesign yet, but in this video, I'll be sharing my plans for a redesigned Manhattan bus network. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. To start off this video, let's talk about possibly the most important type of bus line in the city, and those are the crosstown lines. These lines tend to be some of the most crowded in the city, and it's understandable why. There are a limited number of crosstown subway lines in the city, and as I've said in previous videos, the east-west blocks tend to be longer than the north-south blocks. I propose multiple changes to the crosstown lines, and those are: all shall run at a frequency of every 5 minutes or better, priority is given at most if not all intersections, busways would be implemented on highly congested corridors, and we would remove the select bus service branding. Most crosstown bus lines, like the M86 and M96, have great frequencies, with them running as frequent as every 2 to 4 minutes during peak periods. Others, like the M106 and M116, run less frequently and appear every 10 or more minutes. Implementing higher frequencies for crosstown bus lines will help avoid buses becoming overcrowded, preventing passengers from boarding, and possibly even turning some away from the option completely. Some crosstown streets, like 125th or 34th, see heavy traffic, which ends up slowing down buses. A solution to this issue may be to create busways on certain crosstown streets to help buses navigate them better. Busways are basically corridors where personal vehicle traffic is limited, with passenger cars being required to turn onto one of the north-south avenues after traveling a block crosstown. 2 busways have already been implemented in Manhattan, one on 14th Street and another on 181st Street, and the results are great. Buses run much quicker along both of these roads thanks to there being less traffic on them. And finally, the removal of the select bus service branding. SBS lines tend to have long stop spacing if lines like the BX12, Q44, and M15 are anything to go by. With crosstown bus lines making stops on every avenue, there is no reason for them to have that branding. If anything, it only leads to confusion for passengers, with some not understanding the difference between a select bus route and a normal local route, besides the all-door and faster boarding, which is coming to the local buses soon with the Omni anyways. Moving on to the other type of bus line in Manhattan, north to south. These lines tend to parallel the Manhattan subway trunk lines, providing people with alternate transportation options for reaching their destinations. These lines make very frequent stops, which are spaced about every 2 to 3 blocks. These closely spaced stops slow down buses a considerable amount. Under my plans, we will be following a similar model to those which were used in the Queens and Bronx bus redesigns, with stops being more spaced out so less time is spent sitting at bus stops and more time is spent actually running the route. Stops will be spaced out every 3 to 5 blocks under my plans to help keep buses at speed for longer periods. With that, we would also expand bus priority to avoid buses getting stuck in traffic. I propose converting 1st, 3rd, and 5th Avenues into BRT corridors. Buses running on these corridors will run in both directions and stops will be spaced out every 3 to 5 blocks. Let's focus on 3rd Avenue for a minute. Here, we'll be getting rid of 2 arguably redundant bus lines, the M98 and M103, and the M101 will become a select bus service line. Each bus stop will have a passing lane to allow SBS buses to overtake slower locals. These new BRT corridors will help increase the speeds of those respective bus lines, with them now receiving improvements like queue jumps and dedicated lanes. These lines would run at a frequency of every 5 to 10 minutes off-peak and every 3 to 6 minutes during peak times. Now, I've talked a lot about improving the buses in a sense of making them faster and more efficient, but I think we also need to improve on the experience of waiting for a bus. Adding more seating, covered waiting areas, and countdown clocks will all go a long way to improving passengers' experiences, and make the wait for a bus a much more bearable task and less of a hassle or a nuisance. Now, I've talked a lot about general improvements to the bus network, but I've also reimagined many of the lines in the borough. Here is a quick look at the map. You'll be able to find this same map with a link in the description, so you can check it out and give your thoughts on it. Please note that I have not fully finished this map yet, and I am still researching to see what else can be improved with the individual lines. For instance, just last week, I took the M5 bus nearly the entire route to observe how crowded it gets and if it would be a good idea to equip it with articulated buses. Spoiler, it is not. All of these improvements to the bus network will make the experience of Manhattan bus riders much more enjoyable and bearable, and people will never have to worry about their M102 bus coming in 25 minutes. Hopefully, we'll see the MTA's Manhattan Bus Redesign draft soon, because we all know it'll be disappointing and I would love to comment on it. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to get more from Mystic Transit, like, subscribe, and consider supporting me via channel memberships, super thanks, or Patreon.